our meeting going for the special meeting of the Emeryville Unified School District Board of Trustees. Roll call, please, Ms. Taylor. Or I'd like to call to order special meeting of the Emeryville Unified School District Board of Trustees. Roll call, please.
Brian, can you Oh, testing. President Dice?
Present.
Member Nguyen?
Present.
Member Simon?
Present.
Now, if we can all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do we have any changes to the agenda? No changes. I get approval of the motion.
Move for approval. Second.
Great. Any objections? None. We'll move forward. So now is the opportunity for item B, public comment for any members of the public that wish to address the board on items that are not on the agenda this evening. Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, President, Vice members of the board. My name is Brian Carver. I'm a parent of a student enrolled in the district. And I'm worried about the district's enrollment. This year alone, I know of at least 5 kindergarten families that either want to enroll in our kindergarten or that formerly were at least interested in enrolling and so far have not been able to do so. These are all families whose children attend ECDC and should start kindergarten in the fall. In some cases, these children have been at ECDC since they're 4 months old and whose parents consider themselves part of our community. The problems these families face fall into 3 categories. First are those that need an inter-district transfer from Oakland. These families live right outside the border of Emeryville, but still within the 94608 zip code. In years past, Oakland granted these transfers without too much fuss, but this year, EUSD seems to have adopted a much more stringent policy where the default seems to be to reject as many of these requests as possible. Parents tell me that the advice from our district is simply that your hands are tied and that the ball is in EUSD's court. Our district needs to do more to help these families. In particular, EUSD should propose an agreement to OUSD that any child that attends ECDC or the Marina Head Start program is entitled to an automatic inter-district transfer upon request. If OUSD balks, we could limit this to those living in 94608. We're then only talking about a handful of kids per year, but for those families, nothing could be more important. My son has a friend in this situation, and he has spent every weekday with him since he was 4 months old. That's probably more daylight hours that these two have spent together than my son has even spent with his own sister. Ask yourself what's best for this child: to start school with a big group of his friends that he's known all his life, or to be thrust into a new situation in a school where he doesn't know anyone. I don't think any of us can really claim to care about the best interests of children if we don't do something about this situation. Second are families that are caught up in the confusion parents have surrounding transitional kindergarten and the shifting ages at which kindergartners can enroll. Our district needs to do more to help these families. I'm curious whether the district could accept a student that didn't strictly meet the age requirement if the district determined it was in the best interest of the child, or even if it meant that the child couldn't be counted among the students for which the school receives state aid. If something like this is possible, the district needs to explore it. These children that have attended pre-K but have a slightly later birth date are also best served if we can find a way for them to start school with their friends. Finally, we have families that applied to Annie Yates but also kept their options open and applied to both private and public schools elsewhere. I've had more than one family in this situation tell me that they simply heard back from Annie Yates too late after their decision was made. Some nearby private schools are notifying families as early as February and having welcome events and orientations for new kindergarten families in early spring that reassure new parents and make them feel part of a community. When they don't even hear from Annie Yates until May and are not given any sort of similar welcome, we should not be surprised if parents make this decision based on the limited information they have at the time. Our district needs to accelerate its process next year and get these parents excited about our district before they decide to send their children elsewhere. So we may not be able to win back those families this year that have already opted for another school, but we can have a better enrollment schedule next year. Plus, there is still time to help those that need the interdistrict transfers who are stuck in this transitional K limbo. Please direct your staff to address these problems as soon as possible. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional other comments for items not covered on this current agenda?
Is this on? Okay. So I just looked at the agenda here for this evening, and we got about some 15 some odd pages of material that's just been released right now in response to the commenters for the mitigated negative declaration. It's 15 pages, and so we're going to be discussing this right now. You know, I only have a bachelor's degree, that's all I've got, and I just can't read fast enough to get through 15 pages in the 8 or so minutes that you're allotting the public. And so I just don't think it's appropriate. I think that for those of us that only have a bachelor's degree, or maybe even less, you should allot more than the couple of minutes that you're allotting before we're going to discuss this tonight. I just think it's not appropriate. I don't think it's transparent. I think it sort of discourages community involvement, and which is antithetical to what you guys say that you're all about here. And the next, I want to change the subject now briefly and talk about the superintendent of the schools, Ms. Lindo. I have a child in the district, so I'm heavily invested in this school district. As many of you know, I've been critical of the job performance of our superintendent of the schools. I have commented that since she doesn't have support of more than 90% of the teachers at the schools, that's enough right there to, as far as I'm concerned, that she should resign because she doesn't have the support of the teachers. But further, recently I attempted to speak with Ms. Lindo about something. I asked if I could speak with her. I'm critical of her job performance. She probably doesn't appreciate that. However, since I have a child in the district, I think it's sort of incumbent on the school superintendent, even if she doesn't like specific parents perhaps, or critical of her job performance, to engage and discuss the district policies or whatever with that parent. However, I'm sad to report that Ms. Lindo refuses to speak with me. And I just think that that's sort of beyond the pale. I think that if you don't like the critics that are critical of your parents that are critical of your job performance, you should, I know you want the time to be used up, I still have some more time. If you don't appreciate that parents are critical of your job performance, you sort of need to buck that up, and you need to just go ahead and discuss with parents who are heavily invested in the school district. Now I understand you probably feel like you have you're invested in this school district. You have your reputation. Your reputation is invested in this district. But the parents, we have our children invested in the district, and that's worth, I say, at least as much as your reputation. So I think it's sort of incumbent upon you to not just blow off parents like that. And I don't think we should have a superintendent that behaves like that, frankly. I think that we deserve and should expect the superintendent that will speak to the parents, to all parents, even ones that are critical. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, public comments related to items that are not currently on the agenda this evening? All right, we'll now move on to item E, discussion item E1, discussion of ECCL CEQA initial study, mitigated negative declaration.
There we go. Got it. So the purpose of this item is for the board to consider approval of the resolution of adoption for the Emeryville Center for Community Life CEQA initial study, mitigate negative declaration. And if you recall, subsequent to the board's review and community comments, the ISDM will be circulated for 30 days more, during which time individuals and agencies may submit comments on the adequacy of this review. So those are just a couple of comments. You'll hear from, tonight, you're going to hear from our consultants. We have them here before you tonight. If they would please come to the podium, that would be terrific. We have Judith Malamud?
Amy Paulson.
Amy Paulson and Judith from LSA. And these are the, LSA is the consulting firm that did our CEQA study and presented the findings before you. We have Kathy
Catherine Tellez.
Tellez is going to also give comments regarding the traffic.
Catherine Tellez from Fair Peers is also here to answer any questions, traffic-specific questions that may come up.
Just making sure. Right. So what we're going to do while we're setting that up is we're going to go through the presentation that's in your board packet and then discuss the community comments.
So I have a quick presentation about the ISMND, or Initial Study Mitigated Negative Declaration, ISMND, as well as a brief overview of the comments that the district received on the project. So my name again is Amy Paulson. I'm with LSA Associates. I'm here with Judith Malamud, who is the principal in charge, as well as Catherine Tellez from the Fair Peers. LSA was hired by the district to prepare the ISMND document for the project. So this slide gives a brief overview of my presentation as well as what will be occurring in the meeting tonight. I'll briefly go through the CEQA purpose and process, briefly describe the findings within the ISMND, and we'll also briefly describe the comment letters that